The first month of the season of the 2021 season has come to an end. April is over, and before we head into May, it is time to go over the month of April in the monthly recap. So first things first, our Kansas City Royals are sitting at 19-13, which is atop the AL Central. Right behind them, only a half game behind, are the Minnesota Twins, who are 19-14. Cleveland Indians are in third, 2 games back at 17-15. The White Sox are 16-17 in fourth, 3.5 games back. They're still in it. I mean, everything I'm saying in this video, it's still early. None of this stuff really matters. I'm just here going over stuff that's happened, because that's what I do in these monthly recaps, but it's very early. There's very small sample sizes. There's nothing really too concrete here in this video. And then Detroit, I mean, it's going to take a miracle for them to come back. Detroit's just not very good. They were pretty good. They were actually, like, mediocre last year, and then they're not good at all this year. So now taking a look at some of our players' stats, Jorge Bonifacio has been by far our best player out of our bats. A 982 OPS is 8th in the American League. That leads Kansas City in OPS, and also he leads the team in home runs with 7. Behind him in OPS is Ryan Schimpf with a 952, which is 11th in the American League. It's also the second highest on our team, a 379 OBP, so he's doing his job, hitting home runs, getting on base. I don't care if he strikes out a lot. I expected that. That's what Ryan Schimpf does. I don't give a shit if players strike out. As long as they're hitting extra base hits and getting on base, I could care less. I couldn't possibly care less if they strike out. Matt Carpenter, 819 OPS. His OBP is down to about 345. It was closer to about 380, but he's on a bit of a cold streak right now. He's still been good, though. He's still a leadoff guy, nothing to worry about there. He's also got 6 home runs as well, so he's getting things done in the slugging attribute or the slugging stats as well. Pavin Smith, this is where it starts to take a dip a bit. We have a lot of players who have around like a mid 700 or low 700 OPS. That once again, all this is early, so this is where they are early, and all these guys are very capable of turning it around from a mid 700 OPS or low 700 OPS. So Pavin Smith, a 750 OPS. He only has 3 home runs, a 364 OBP though, so he is getting on base. His power numbers just aren't there quite yet. Brett Phillips so far has had the complete opposite year of what he's had last year in 2020. Last year he hit a lot of home runs, but he couldn't get on base very often. This year, he's getting on base with a 368 OBP, but he has 0 home runs for the first month of the season. Once again, it is early. He still has time to turn this around. Vince Falvey, sophomore slump so far, a 721 OPS, only 2 home runs, only a 380 slugging. Not what you like to see from him. But once again, it is early. Cue the, I'll take a shot every time Jersey says it's early comment, because they don't realize if I don't say it 300 times in the video, there's going to be 14, 12-year-olds commenting that I'm an idiot because I'm talking about these stats like they matter. Jorge Soler, the power is there for him so far in the year, but the OBP is not. He's got 6 home runs, but he only has a 706 OPS with a below 300 OBP, which is not even remotely good. So the power numbers are there, but he definitely still has work to do in order to turn that around in his final season with the Royals. Chris Owings, as it stands right now, once again, it is early, but as it stands right now, shortstop might be a major need at the trade deadline. We have Chris Owings. He's not really doing much. We do have some possible options in the minor leagues, which we will touch on later in the episode. But right now, Chris Owings, a 702 OPS and 86 ABs. He's back from his MCL sprain. Greg Garcia, who was taking his place for like those week and a half that he was on the DL, he's down in AAA now. Greg Garcia has a very, very high plate discipline rating, and he's going to draw a lot of walks, so I mean, he is an option to take over at shortstop maybe later on in the season if Owings is getting it done, but I mean, I don't really want him to be the choice at that position. He's just kind of a guy I signed for like that week because I didn't want to waste any guys' options who were actually prospects that we have, because the options in this game don't actually work like options in real life where they have option years. They just have flat out options where they just get called up, called down, that's one option. Called up, called down, that's one option. While in real life, they'll have an option year where you can just call them up, send them down, call them up, send them down. So that, like, Joe Girardi's Scranton shuttle in real life, that would not be a thing in this, because he would send down his reliever twice, and then he wouldn't be able to do anything with them. Marwin Gonzalez, 47 at-bats on the bench, a 6.74 OPS, very small sample size. He does not have the glove or the arm to play shortstop, so you may be thinking to yourself, well, look, Marwin Gonzalez, maybe he could play shortstop. Does not have the arm or the glove to play that position, so Marwin Gonzalez will continue being a bench utility guy. Mabrys Valoria, 6.43 OPS. His bat is not what I hoped it'd be to start 2021. Once again, it's still early, but even if he does end up just being a guy who's like a Gold Glove caliber catcher who will run into a few home runs a year, I'm completely fine with that. I don't expect this guy to be putting up 900 OPSs with us. If he just wants to be an insanely good defensive catcher and run into like 15-20 home runs a year, I am perfectly fine with that, especially since we're not paying him the amount of money we were paying Salvador Perez to put up those stats. Jeffrey Marte, a 6.30 OPS, not a good start for him. He only plays versus lefties, though. I mean, maybe it'd be better if he was playing every day, but that's just not an option for him here because we have Matt Carpenter at third, and there's nowhere else to put Marte because he can only play left, third, and first, and all those spots are taken. Khalil Lee, only 62 at-bats, a 580 OPS. I'm not going to give up on Khalil Lee after 1 month because his OPS is bad. He's going to get more time. He only has 62 at-bats. I'm not giving up on Khalil Lee just like that. Nick Dini is a guy, a very small sample size with only 30 at-bats, but I mean, it's just comical to see a 167 OPS. That's like a Higashioka OPS with the Yankees where he has one career hit and it's a home run. Now on to the guys we have in the minor leagues who could possibly take over at shortstop if I do decide to call these guys up. Ramon Torres is a guy who we obviously know about. He's very good defensively. He's not hitting in AAA, he does not hit in the major leagues, and we really cannot have multiple guys with good gloves and no bat. We already have a guy like Mabrys Valoria who does that, and then especially, let's just say we fast forward to June or something, or like mid-July, and we still have a bunch of our bats who are struggling. We can't just call up Ramon Torres to have an insanely good glove and then have another bad bat in the lineup. Eventually, you're going to need bats in your lineup. Ramon Torres does not provide that. Richard Rose possibly could provide that. He's gotten off to a decent start in 2021 in AAA. He's got a 3.77 OBP, a 7.33 OPS. He gets on base. He just doesn't hit a lot of extra base hits, which is definitely not what you like to see. But I mean, I would be fine with a 3.77 OBP. And he has the glove to play shortstop if needed, but the arm is definitely not there. He's only got a 56 arm strength and a 43 arm accuracy. So I'm not really looking at him too much to be a shortstop for us because of that arm, but I mean, he is definitely an option because he can possibly play shortstop, but he's not like the top of our options. Gunnar Height is a guy who we traded for, I believe, in Season 2. I don't remember who we traded him for. We traded some other minor league that I had for him. We just kind of swapped minor leaguers. Gunnar Height's 28 years old. He's not the most highly touted prospect. He's, like I said, he's 28 years old. He's not even really a prospect at this point. He just hasn't gotten to the major leagues yet. He's going to get on base a lot. He's got some decent pop. He's got a decent enough glove to play all infield positions. He's not going to be winning gold gloves in those positions, but I mean, I would be fine with him playing any of the infield positions. Cody Escalona. I know this is a guy who we just drafted this past year. This is his first year in professional baseball. But in AA so far, through 91 at-bats, he's got a 9.71 OPS, and he's going to end up in AAA at some point, probably before the trade deadline, so we can get some ABs in AAA before the trade deadline, before I have to make a decision if I want to trade for a shortstop. So if Cody Escalona, if I call up at the AAA, and he's just dominating AAA too, he might get a shot to be the shortstop in his first pro ball season. If he's not ranking in AAA, then we're probably going to have to either call somebody else up or probably make a trade, making a trade probably the more likely of those solutions. Now, if we take a look at our pitching, we have Danny Duffy, who is still very good for us, as always. He's got a 3.14 ERA, 3.23 FIP in 43 innings. Mark Leiter Jr. has been a huge surprise for us. I expected him to be a serviceable starter. I did not expect him to be a very good starter. Once again, it is early, but I mean, so far, Mike Leiter has been very good. A 2.81 ERA, 2.19 FIP, 32 innings, 40 strikeouts. Very good from the Toms River North native. Chris Archer, 2.72 ERA, 3.74 FIP. So he's got a good ERA, but he's one of those guys where the ERA is kind of not really, doesn't tell the whole story. While the FIP is 3.74, which isn't the worst. It's not the greatest, but it's definitely not bad either. So he's doing pretty good. Chris Archer there. He is still a big part of our rotation. Jake Junis still doing his thing of walking no one and being solid in the middle of rotation. He's got a 306 FIP at 36 innings. Foster Griffin has been much better than he was in 2020. He has a 2.5 ERA, a 3.25 FIP. He's got 36 innings pitched. And then when we take a look at our bullpen, Sean Gilmartin has arguably been our best reliever so far in the year. He was very good in 2020 as well. He's got 21 strikeouts and 15 and a third innings pitched, a 2.28 FIP. Very good for Sean Gilmartin. He was a extremely good pickup in the Rule 5 draft, and not this past offseason, but the one before that. Juris Familia has struggled a bit to start the year. Obviously, we're not giving up on him. He's Juris Familia. He's going to have some struggles from time to time, just like every baseball player does. But he only has 11 innings pitched, and he has a 5.28 FIP in those 11 innings. Kelvin Herrera is a guy who has been dominant so far in the season. 19 strikeouts in 17 innings, 9 saves, a 2.29 FIP, 1.06 ERA. He was the AL Pitcher of the Month in April. And then we also, taking a look at our minor leagues, more in-depth look at our minor leagues. Josh Stalmant, our fireballer, he is listed as a starter, but his most likely role in the major leagues is a reliever. He is not going to be getting called up anytime soon because he separated his shoulder. He's on the 60-day DL for 1 to 2 months. Michael Winnicka is a guy who I would expect to see in the MLB bullpen this year. We don't really have any spots in the rotation for him. So Winnicka, if people continue, or if people are struggling in the bullpen, Winnicka would be a guy who I would expect to see take over in the bullpen. Orlando Meadows is a guy who I drafted in the 5th round in 2019. He's probably going to be a big part of our bullpen at some point in the future. He's got 19 strikeouts and 12 2/3 innings, a 2.84 ERA, a .55 FIP. He's the closer down in AAA. He's not going to get a prospect profile because he's a reliever, and that would take like 9 games to get enough footage to even have a prospect profile, but Orlando Meadows is going to be a guy who we see eventually. Maybe not this year, probably next year, maybe he will be this year. We'll see, but Orlando Meadows is a guy to look out for in the future. Donnie Fitzgerald, another guy, left-handed starting pitcher. I'm looking at him to possibly, because Danny Duffy is in the last year of his contract, so if Danny Duffy leaves, if I decide not to bring back Danny Duffy next year, we would just replace him with this lefty in Donnie Fitzgerald, who has been very good in AAA. He was good in AA in his first year, good in AAA last year. He was good in AAA so far in April. He's got a 1.82 ERA, 2.26 FIP, and 29 2/3 innings, 27 strikeouts. He's a guy to definitely look out for in the future as well. Larry Decker is not a guy who we can look for at shortstop because, 1, he can't play that position. 2, he definitely does not have the glove to learn that position. But he is a guy who could replace Schimpf at second base next year. I said that was an option when I signed Schimpf because Schimpf's just an older version of Decker, and I wanted to have Decker develop his plate discipline a bit more before I called him up. So he could take over for Schimpf at second next year. He could be at third next year once Carpenter leaves, and we don't have an option for that. He could possibly, once Soler leaves at the offseason, Bonifacio could move to right field, and then Decker could take over in left field. He could learn how to play left field. Basically, I'm going to have every possible chance for this guy to make a Major League roster in 2022. I want him to be on the team in 2022, which is next season. So far in AAA, he's doing his thing. 8 home runs, 915 OPS. Nothing to complain about there. Miguel Andujar, definitely a lot to complain about. He's just been flat out bad in AAA. He has not been good for us at any level, really. He hasn't hit in AA. He hasn't hit in AAA. He's still not hitting in AAA. Didn't hit for us in the majors. He's got a 5.57 OPS so far. And I really don't think he's the future in Kansas City at third base. Definitely not at first base either. As it stands right now, the Yankees definitely won the Jason Hamill trade, even though they only got half a year out of him because he went and won a World Series with them. Wasn't like we gave up a ton for him because Jason Hamill was pretty old and they only got a half a year for him, and I'm pretty sure he just like retired after that year where he went into free agency, no one signed him, and then he retired. But Miguel Andujar, definitely not the option at third base for us. Sad to see, but it is what it is. Hunter Dozier, also a guy who we have at third base, who I'm probably going to trade at some point. He is an interesting guy for trading because he doesn't have a future for us either. He's a guy who's got decent contact and power ratings, but he's not going to hit the ball consistently. He's not going to get on base. He's just not going to do what we need him to do. So Hunter Dozier, even though I hit it well with him in-game, that's not the measure of what we're determining if we want guys, because even if I hit well with them in 2 games out of a month, there's a lot more games in a month than 3 I play, or the 2 that he hits well in. And as far as trading him goes, he has a potential because the game gave him a potential. I did not mess with his ratings. That's just what the game has him as. So his trade value in-game is going to be extremely spiked by that, and I could probably completely fleece some CPU team in a trade, but I would not do that because that's not realistic, and Hunter Dozier is not that guy. So I would be trading him based on who he actually is and not what the game has him rated as an A potential. Aaliyah Hernandez is another guy. He's got an 825 OPS with 5 home runs. We've already done a prospect profile on him. He could be a starting corner outfielder for us next year, or he could be a 4th outfielder for us, because Khalil Lee could take over at one of those corner outfield positions when Soler leaves. Hernandez would compete with Khalil Lee. He could possibly be the 4th guy, and maybe they'll platoon Hernandez against lefties, and then Lee versus righties, because they're lefty and righty bats, Hernandez being a righty, Lee being a lefty. He is 26 years old, though, so, I mean, he doesn't really have the trade value of what he once had, but, I mean, I don't really want to trade him. He's probably the most Major League ready out of all of the outfield prospects that we have, so I don't want to just get rid of him. He's probably going to be in the Major League roster next year, but I don't know that for sure. I'd probably say it's about an 85% chance that he is going to be on the MLB roster next season. And now if we take a look at some of the top prospects throughout baseball, the top 5 out of all of baseball are Brendan Rodgers with Colorado, Bo Bichette with Toronto, Fernando Tatis with San Diego, William Shin with Washington, and then Mike Soroka with Atlanta. San Diego is stacked. They've also got number 6 and 8, and then Atlanta also has number 11 and 12. Our first guy on the list is Gustavo Rodriguez, who appears at number 29, and then Michael Wanicka is 42nd. I have no idea why Cody Escalona's not on this list. I think Cody Escalona is by far the best prospect we have in our system, and the game's just like, nah, he's not. He's not going to be in there. So I don't know what this game determines it by, but he's just not listed. And then in the offseason video, I said I would give you guys an update on certain former Kansas City players who I didn't know where they went in the offseason, or just guys that we want to check up on. First things first, out of that, there is Tampa Bay, where we have a lot of our former players because of the Chris Archer trade. There's Jesse Hahn, he's still in Tampa Bay's rotation. Sully Matias, he was in the Archer trade. He's now their starting right fielder in the majors in Tampa. Stefan Velasquez was the main piece in the Archer trade. He's still in AAA Durham. They have not called him up yet to either play short, third, or second. Bubba Starling was a guy who, obviously, the Royals drafted in real life expected him to be a beast, was not a beast. We did not offer him a contract for season 1. Tampa signed him for whatever reason, and he's still in AA Montgomery. He's probably just going to be a guy who just retires in the minor leagues. There's no future for him. Travis Jankowski, our 4th outfielder for the past 2 seasons, replaced Jackie Bradley Jr. in Boston, who is now with the Colorado Rockies, Jackie Bradley Jr. that is, and Jankowski is now Boston center fielder. Tommy Joseph is still the DH in Oakland, and he appears to be doing pretty well to start the year. Whit Merrifield still out there as the starting second baseman for the New York Mets. And then Samir Dunez and Frank Schwindel are the number 1 and number 2 first basemen in the Philadelphia Phillies system. Because they did not do a good job of replacing Carlos Santana. They didn't sign anybody. They didn't trade for anybody. Trades are now on in this franchise. I had them turned off for the first few years because if you don't, it's going to be like, hey, the Padres are going to trade Eric Hosmer to a division rival in the month of May of Season 1, and then the Padres roster is going to be completely different by the second week of the season, and it's just every team makes way too many trades, but at this point, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at this point because we're so far into it that even guys who've been recently signed doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've said that like 300 times now, but that's what's happening now. So trades are back on. So it was on during the offseason. It was on during the trade deadline last year, and they just did not do a good job of replacing Carlos Santana. He's in Milwaukee now, and the Philadelphia starting first baseman is Samir Dunez. And then right behind him is Frank Schwindel. Both guys who were never going to get time for us in the major leagues because they had so many guys in front of them. And then Jurickson Profar. I did not know this until next month because I'm recorded a few episodes ahead. But Jurickson Profar is actually on the Philadelphia Phillies as well. I don't have footage of it in this recording because, once again, I didn't notice it until after. But with that being said, that is going to wrap things up here for this edition of the April recap of the Kansas City Royals franchise. We're going to be heading into May 2021. I have been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.